Hey everyone, this is Jackie Cooper with the Blockchain Legal Institute and also the Maryland Blockchain Association talk show. I want to welcome everyone today who's listening to this episode. I'm very excited to have Constellation Network on to share more about what they are doing within our community for many reasons. They are a sponsor and a supporter of the Blockchain Legal Institute Legal Tech Hackathon, which is going on right now. And they are also doing a lot of great things in our community. So I want to introduce two individuals who I've known for a while. So that way they can actually share more about a new project and tool that I think everyone should take a look at. So Benjamin, I'm going to have you kind of share your story first, and then Dave, you can kind of hop on afterwards, and let's talk about how you guys got involved and why you thought this was so important for our community.
Yeah, well, Jackie, per usual, really appreciate you including us and everything you do for the industry. You've made quite a name for yourself. I don't know many calls I get on where Jackie isn't mentioned, so appreciate it. So for those who are never heard of us, my name is Benjamin Diggles. I'm one of the co-founders of Constellation Network. We've been in business for 8 years. We are a blockchain company, but we also represent a pretty wide ecosystem. I also know that most people, when they hear blockchain, it probably means 5 different things to 5 different people. So hopefully through this, we can sort of demystify some of that and explain where the value is and the signal is in all this. But yeah, when we set this out, we really wanted to make blockchain be about the validation of complex data pipelines, right? Because if we think about what Bitcoin was really focused on, of peer-to-peer payment systems that are decentralized, you don't have to have that central authority to send money back and forth. We thought, well, why wouldn't we just do the same thing with data, but at scale, right? For those that know Bitcoin, it's not the fastest or cheapest network to run. And we thought, what if we flipped that on its head and went for something really focused on the legacy and just really normal businesses out there that are trying to stay ahead, but that could bring the promise of this emerging technology within their workflows and hopefully superpower some of their different expressions that they're trying to achieve, which we can talk about what that really stands for here in some of these use cases. And so, yeah, we are largely an open source network, meaning that we have a lot of tools that were available for those to just kind of grab and use and build their own blockchain solutions. As you know, we're involved in the Dora Hacks hackathon with the Blockchain Legal Institute. Very happy to be a sponsor there, because that really is our ethos around supporting developers. At the same time, we're very, I would say, enterprise and federal focused. Even though we've beat this topic like a dead horse, is that we've been working with the federal government now going on 7 years straight, which is pretty wild, and deploying blockchain solutions and solving some of these key issues around cybersecurity and centralized systems with blockchain technology. But during that time, our vision was always to sort of harden this technology for the enterprise to make it, maybe I'm over speaking, but somewhat of a commodity, something that's very easy to bring into your workflow, that isn't complex, adds that value, and it doesn't disrupt some of the orchestration that you're doing today. So with that federal effort that we were pushing very hard and that we continue to push hard, we formalized a product, and really that's where Dave Berg came into the mix. So I'm going to gush on Dave Berg here for a second. We've been working with Dave now about 10 months. He joined us at the beginning of this year. He has a very mature enterprise background, both not only in emerging startups, but also running and working with Fortune 500 companies. And as we took what we learned with the federal government and productized it, we needed somebody with Dave's expertise to come in and help us sort of take it to the next level. And while Dave knows a lot about blockchain, he isn't as inundated as somebody like me that, I have a hard time sometimes simplifying this because I'm so close to the flame, if you will. And so Dave is a big reason why we're on this call to talk about what products we're about to talk about. And so I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Dave. And Dave, I'd love you to not only introduce yourself, but maybe tell a little bit about your perspective kind of coming into this industry in the last year and how you've seen major opportunities and what has really affected Constellation in a positive way.
Well, thank you so much, Benjamin. I appreciate the kind words and being here. So my background as an engineer, as a technologist, found product management kind of mid-career. So I've been doing that as a product leader oh geez, don't want to do the math, but over 15 years. And a lot of experience in cybersecurity, in AI, in a variety of different enterprise verticals, as well as you mentioned everything from a small startup all the way up to Fortune 500, even Fortune 100 companies. And I've been a, crypto enthusiast, interested, investor, co-founder in an NFT company where I lost everything. And I've ridden the waves up and down with the industry for a while. So the opportunity to come into Constellation as a product leader and really focus on that was quite interesting to me. Seeing that there's just, like you said, it could mean 5 different things to 5 different people when you speak about crypto. That to me means there's a lot of opportunity, a lot of potential consolidation, but also a lot of greenfield, right? Web3 gives you this opportunity to solve problems in different ways than were possible in Web2 and before. So if you apply that correctly, you can really do some wonderful things. You can also make a mess, or you can just play games. You can do, all kinds of fun stuff with it. The way I approach it, though, like you said, trying to find the signal from the noise, right? Blockchain, as beautiful and how elegant as it can be, is the enabler, not the headline. And so we embraced that pretty early in my journey here with Constellation. Benjamin and I specifically talking about, okay, we're not going to go into meetings and explain hypergraphs, right? We're going to talk about what is the measurable value that you want. Sometimes you can produce value that people don't care about, right? Or they want to solve it in a different way. But what do people want to solve with this? And how do we get there? And how do we make it, going back to that Staples commercial back, the easy button, right? How do we make this the enabler so people can use it and get value out of it? And then we can go on and solve something else, right? And keep building and building and building. And the journey that we've had in 2025 has been exactly that. We said, okay, there's all this wonderful stuff you can do with the Constellation technology, talking about higher velocity for transactions, lower fees, all that great stuff. What is it that we want to put a bow on and make it really, really straightforward to understand, to integrate with, and to get value out of? And then we can build from there. And so that's where digital evidence came from.
So I love that, because there's a lot of individuals that approach me and say, well, how can I have value from this? I really don't understand the tech, and what's a product that I can use or be a part of. So do you want to share screen? And yeah, okay, let's do that. So what is digital evidence? I mean, I think I have a definition in my head, but share with everyone who's listening what it is, both the problem that exists and what you're trying to solve.
Yeah. How about I start the fight, and then Dave can finish it, right? When we look at really the promises of blockchain, and I'm going to speak to everyone that's listening right now that may be like, I'm so tired of hearing about this topic and not understanding what it is or what the value is, right? Well, at the end of the day, there's this thing called immutability. And it's a term that even before I started, I didn't use because it just wasn't a normal term, right? And it just means that something can't be changed. That's what makes these networks so ironclad from a security perspective, is that the moment an instance is created on the blockchain, it's like Medusa's looking at it and it's been frozen in stone. And that may seem like a whatever burger, but that has a ton of value to it, right? Because if you're able to freeze data or an event at the core, you now have digital evidence or a provable guarantee of what happened at the moment it was supposed to. That intention is frozen in time. And as we all know, in a world where things can be manipulated, corrupted, changed, that's really valuable, right? Especially in a time where trust is at its all-time low. Nobody trusts anything, right? And so going back to Dave's sort of focus on the easy button, we wanted to name this thing something very simple and tell you what it is instead of giving it some funky kind of Web 2 name. So we went with digital evidence, and it is what it says it is. And so with that immutability, we were able to create fingerprints and put things on chain that now have a source of truth that folks can really look back at and say, okay, this is what it says it is. And so why that's important is not only does it increase trust, But once that data has been, notarized and has been put on a blockchain from an immutable perspective, we now can start looking at things like automation. And I often say this is, you're painting with a brush that society really hasn't been painting with so far, because as we know, bad data in, bad results out. And that's something that we've seen really expressed with things like hallucinations in AI, really the he said, she says when it comes down to things like litigation, anything that's contested when it comes to facts or truths that are data driven. This can have a demonstrable impact on. Furthermore, when we start to think about like producing something that is meaningful from an outcome, because a lot of people are like, where does the blockchain live? How does it work? It really doesn't matter. And I'm more than happy to explain the guts of how this works, but we're going to try to stay away from that and focus more on kind of the value output. We wanted to create some sort of an expression that really harkened back to what we saw in the 90s with a lock in a URL when you were on an e-commerce website and you were nervous about putting your credit card information in. So then they had this lock that showed up that was an insignia that not only gave people confidence, but furthermore, you could click on it. You could see the SSL certificate, the gateway, the credit card processor, things that gave you that assurance that, okay, this is being backed by something real. I'm not going to get screwed or taken. We wanted to do the same thing with the output of the immutability, going back to Medusa being at the source, right? What we call is the smart check mark. And this smart check mark, we want to be seen as a standard that starts to show up in people's different, reports, their workflows, so that in the back of their mind, when they see it, if they want to be lazy, which is totally normal for us humans when we get to conveniences, they can just see it and they can trust it, right? But if they don't want to trust it and they're feeling a little less lazy, they can click or hover over it and they can truly see that hashing or that fingerprint on the blockchain, giving them that sense of confidence that, yeah, this is what it says it is, right? And so I'm going to go ahead and I can go into things such as incentive design and other areas that can be expressed, how you can actually do microservices for micropayments. But I think we're getting a little nerdy, going back to me being a little institutionalized by this. So I'm going to hand it over to my buddy Dave here. And Dave, maybe we can start with the use case of the real estate ledger, because I think everybody really understands that. And I might be able to just open it up right here. Is that showing up?
It is, yeah.
Okay, great. Well, maybe talk a little bit about this pet project that you birthed, because this is what I believe is one of the things that we've been hearing a lot of people request. So Dave pulled some strength out of his hat and put this thing together. So Dave?
I think, Jackie, were you trying to talk on mute there for a moment?
Just for a second, I wasn't. I was just agreeing with Benjamin that the applications and the uses are very broad, and so that's why I was pleased that you were going the real estate and other ways. So yeah.
Cool. Thank you. Just a footnote before we go into this. When we're talking about blockchains, there's two things that really resonate when you're talking about that immutability and that trust. One, the blockchain that we're using here, the Constellation Hypergraph, it's an open source project. So that means, not only has it been vetted by the government, it's been vetted by the world, right? So you can see it, you got it there, but also it's run publicly. It's not a closed network. So if we tried to change something, there would be consequences. If you have the most secure thing, but it's locked in a closet and you can tinker with it, it loses that value. So just starting with that as a foundation. But one of the other things that blockchains are really good at, it's organizing data from a variety of different sources, right? You can cherry pick the good stuff that you want, secure it on chain, and then you can use an oracle or an indexer or something like that to see it. So with with the real estate ledger, where we started was, how do we help the tokenization of real estate? Right? With tokenization, the way it's structured today, you have proof of ownership. So I'm confident that you own that property, but like a publicly traded company, I want to see a statement. I want to understand how you're managing it. And everyone I looked at, every research we did was, well, look at our trusted property managers. I'm like, well, I'm sure they're wonderful human beings, but I have no reason to trust them. So why don't we try to build some trust in there? And so backing that down to say, okay, how do we do our crawling before we walk and we run? I started saying, well, as a homeowner, I would want a user guide for my house, right? How do I keep track of all this information, the different build materials, the warranties, the liabilities, the vendors that I use to fix my toilet or mow my lawn or something like that. So I can build that over time. Well, if I'm doing that and I'm starting back to what Benjamin mentioned a while ago, you want good data in, otherwise you're not going to get good results out. I'm flipping it around a little bit. If I start with this information verified and secured on chain, then I can do some really cool things on the back end, where I can run an agent to look at my warranties, see what's under warranty, what's out of warranty, what's covered. Especially if the home has been bought and sold a few times, I can carry that from owner to owner. I can do insurance underwriting, where I can show them my receipts going back 4 years to get an accurate appraisal of my home. I can do some things around monitoring my title, monitoring my liens, my mortgage, and things like that. So I can start getting into the contested areas and really adding some very real value there. But also I'm organized. So if the faucet in my bathroom breaks, I not only know what brand it is, I know what model it is, and I can quickly look up the user guide to figure out how to fix it. But then this builds over time to being something that can accelerate due diligence for sales. It can accelerate closing, and it can help add proof of management to tokenized assets, tokenized real estate.
Let me ask you a question with this.
Yes, ma'am.
So is this is this for individuals or for businesses or both?
Yes. So you can look at it in kind of 3 buckets. One is individual. Myself, I want to organize my home. If I ever sell my home, then I have the full list. I'm not going to just put on the MLS, I replaced my furnace last year. I can show the receipt, the vendor, the date, everything in the warranty. So that really gets the new owner a lot of confidence and a lot of ease when they go to service that or whatever. As a business, I want to manage these things. I want to understand, maybe I'm doing rental businesses. Maybe I'm not doing a rental, but I'm actually a commercial property. I want to be able to get the real-time accounting that blockchain is so good at out of this system, so I can make sure my bills are paid on time and things like that. And then as a builder, so our main investor and partner with this builds townhome communities. And so as a builder, he has all of the material, all of that information. He's going to put it into real estate ledger, so that way when the new homeowners go in, they have the complete thing. No more is this cardboard box in the closet with all your closing documents that you don't really know what you're ever going to do with. It's all digitized, it's all on chain, it's all digitally transferable, and therefore you can use this in a meaningful way when you buy your home. So his thought is, as he's doing this, it's a competitive advantage, and it should bring a higher price for these homes because it is a desirable thing that he's doing for the new homeowner.
So if an individual decides to use this for the real estate example, are they basically it's sort of as like having folders on chain. So for each of the various pieces within their home, they can create an access point for knowing what the warranties are or what the other documents are, things like that. Is that how it works?
Exactly. And so this is where, like I mentioned before, blockchain is the enabler, not the headline. There's a lot of not blockchain stuff that goes on around here, creating those folders or spaces, if you will, and associating all this stuff. The blockchain provides that immutability. And then when we get to things that we want to contest or we want to prove, that's where it provides that utility. But otherwise, there's a lot of, Web 2, if you will, technology that goes into the organization and the facilitation of those value use cases.
So in addition to real estate, there are other professions or business applications that this can be used for. So what are some of those areas? Because that way people can also be thinking about how this might apply to them in their careers or personal life.
Definitely. Yeah. So the one that you're seeing on, go ahead, Benjamin. Go ahead,
oh, no, I would love to hear you talk about it. Let's go for it.
So connected vehicles first responders is the one that was like one of our first ones, where sensor data from these vehicles, whether it's coming from their Panasonic Toughbook that's jacked into the computer on the car's onboard computer, or the sirens and the lights, the sensors that come out of that, taking that data, we digitally sign it at the source, which is very lightweight. And then that goes up into the cloud. That then gets mirrored onto the blockchain. So what that does is that creates a log of all the sensor data that's signed at the source, immutable on the blockchain. Emergency vehicles are known to get in accidents because of what they're trying to do. And so then there's almost always litigation. So doing the discovery for that litigation is time consuming. A lot of large police forces and stuff employ people that's all they do is digital forensics. But by using digital evidence in this way, those people can go do other stuff. Because if that, for example, that ambulance on the picture there gets in an accident, you can quickly go and pull a report that says this is all the information that you need from this slice of time about all those sensors. The sirens were on, they were at this volume level. The lights were on, they were at this setting. The vehicle is traveling at this rate of speed at this GPS coordinates. Those are all information that the court of law will need to assess this situation. So what we've done is we've taken what would normally take 8 to 12 hours to pull all that information and manually assemble it. And then somebody has to go to court to defend that information. And we've just automated that whole process.
That's amazing. In addition to that example, what other examples are there?
Yeah, I can jump in on a couple, give you a break there, Dave. You know, one of the ones that we're really excited about is this provable tamper-proof communications. This is the work we did with the DoD and continue to do for the last going on 7 years. The program's called Iron Spider, Secure Peer-to-Peer Interoperable Data Resilience. You know, a mouthful that doesn't make sense to a lot of people. But basically, when you're in a situation where you're sending top secret, very sensitive mission data, not only to another 3-letter agency, but also more importantly, a porous environment of contracting partners that are outside of the mothership, you want to make sure that that message that's sent from one point to the next, when they receive it, that adversaries haven't gone in and made changes to that data, removed any of the data, corrupted any of the data. And that's exactly what we proved out within the systems of the DoD, which is, all right, I'm about to send this mission or this communication. I need to know that not only when it is received, that quality assurance on the blockchain is ensuring that nothing's happened to it, but only the right people can access it, right? Or we may require multi-signatures. You know, these 3 out of 5 people that have been approved are required to sign on this to either send it or receive it, adding an extra layer or layers of security that you're just not going to get with the modern internet. And we've heard a lot of stuff, and I'm not going to name names because I don't want to get in hot water about, you know, DMVs, certain DMVs being breached or their data being held ransom. If they were to have cryptographic signatures on a blockchain that required you to access their network in order to interact with any of the content within their system, that breach would not have happened, right? That's the power of using immutable identity access management within a blockchain. And so that sort of explains a little bit what we've done with the government. And then that really got into our relationship with Panasonic by bringing this technology into terminals like their Panasonic ruggedized Toughbook. Now it's a standardized offering within a terminal that's used not only by federal and commercial, such as firefighters and first responders and police officers and air traffic controllers. These things are all over the world. So we wanted to meet them where they're at. So if they're like, hey, we're about to do this thing where the implications could be very bad if it doesn't go perfectly and if it's porous, let's go ahead and just add that extra layer of security by signing on a blockchain, putting the pertinent data on a blockchain with that fingerprint technology so that when it's received, we have that very crystal clean, immutable data to be consumed within that environment. So yeah, does that help, Jackie?
It does. Now, I guess my it's not my last question. I know you and I and the team will always be having ongoing questions. If someone is interested in using this tool, how do they do that? Do they just hop over to the website? And what's the process of actually getting onboarded and then becoming, you know, part of this ecosystem by using the digital evidence tool?
Yeah, I'll set this up for Dave because this is Dave's world. we wanted to remove the barrier of this being scary. We wanted to make this very simple to work within your existing workflows so that you don't have to manage networks and do all that stuff, much like interacting with the cloud, right? If you need a cloud provider, you could be up and running in a matter of minutes with whatever your instance is, and you can start utilizing this technology across the globe very easily. And we wanted to do the same. That said, we know we had to create some form of a program to allow people to sort of, test it out. So Dave, maybe you can talk about your vision behind the Digital Evidence Builder program and how that bleeds into full-blown deployments.
Absolutely. Thank you. And, one of the things I wanted to mention as well is we were talking about these use cases. These are pretty big and heavy, like federal government, Panasonic, that's a Fortune 100 company and such, or the real estate ledger, which we have a team building that. The builder program is one I wanted to go, honor our roots, right? We're founded on open source. We want to keep engaging with that community. How do I open this up to them? So I created a builder program and also created an early access, which today it's still free. There will be a paywall eventually. There'll be a free tier in it, but really you can sign up on our website, get the API keys and the documentation emailed to you, and then you can start building your own, integrating it with your own systems. And I heard back from our community saying, well, we wanted to use this, but deploying our own blockchain metagraph system with nodes and everything, it was a lot of work. But now that we do this, it's an API, I can vibe code that in an afternoon and I'm up and running. So now we're seeing use cases where the builders have, one gentleman works in the entertainment industry and he wants to create an immutable log of his intellectual property, his lyrics, his vocals, things like that. And then he can integrate that in with smart contracts for royalties and so on and so forth. So he's been working with that. Another group has been working on registering vulnerabilities, 0 days and different hacks, and making sure that they get the proper attribution for that. So that's how you do it. You can go to our website, you can sign up. If you want, you're a hobbyist, you're a hacker, you're a small startup or project, you can just run with it. If you want a larger partnership with us, like we've talked about with Real Estate Ledger or Panasonic, that's where Benjamin and I come in and we can help navigate that. But really starting here, it's fully documented. We've tried to make it as straightforward as possible. Even Benjamin vibe coded a weather app in a few hours, and that's up and running. It's really, really cool. So making the barrier to entry as small as we can to really get the value to the people really is what we're trying to do here.
No, I love that. And I know that I'm thinking about how do I integrate that into some of the things that I'm doing with Blockchain Legal Institute and the Maryland Blockchain Association, and also all these other areas that we're networking, because I definitely want to understand more by actually going in and doing it, because I think it's important if we're promoting it that we should also be one of the users of it as well. So any last minute thoughts? Because I know we have a ongoing series of conversations that we do with Constellation. Any last minute thoughts for the digital evidence tool that you would like to share with everyone? Because I'm going to be, obviously, as you and I've talked, we're going to be dropping this talk show out this weekend, so that way people can start to protect themselves. Because I'm not, I'll name drop. It was the Maryland Department of Transportation that got hacked. I'm in Maryland, so I'm looking at, okay, was my information out there? So again, it's all about protection and it's about support and using the tools that we have access to now. So, again, if you're listening and you're in Maryland and you want to know more, reach out to me, because I think this is really critically important. But any last minute thoughts?
Yeah. So, I know it's a cheesy statement, but I say it a lot, is that we're not building technology to change the world. We're building technology for a changing world. I believe that a lot of our systems that we've relied on for so long are starting to fail us. This is why all these hacks are happening. And I think it's really great that we have this overlay called blockchain, where we can say, you don't have to quit using the internet. It's not the boogeyman. That said, if there's something that's really sensitive or important and you can't afford for it to get out of your hands, put it on a blockchain, right? And so therefore that puts the pressure on folks like Dave and I to make it as easy as possible. That's why I love what I have on the screen here, is because anybody that's interested in doing this, we hear these RFPs that are like, hey, we have a 18-month proposal that's $1.5 million to put real estate data on chain. It's like, if you get this API from Dave by filling out the form on this website, you can do it in an afternoon. And right now, as he said, you can do it for free. That will change in the future, but we've made it so damn easy to take the complication out of blockchain. And we haven't even talked about cryptocurrency and all these other wonderful tools that you can bring in to really enhance this, to go even further when it comes to incentive behavior changes and whatnot. But I do want to double underscore that one of the big breakthroughs during the DORA hacks, for example, is because we started this thing in like August, and I think it's wrapping up here in October or here pretty shortly. Yeah. But the API that we've released came out midway through the DORA hacks thing, and that's what really lit off all the projects that we're working on Constellation. They immediately were able to start to interact with our network without having to do the heavy lifting that we had before. That's largely an homage to Dave's work here. But any last words from you, Dave, before we bring her home?
Oh, I know better than to follow you. No, thank you very much.
That's funny. Well, I appreciate both of you for what you're doing and all the learning that I'm gaining every time that I speak with both of you. For those that are listening, definitely stay tuned. There's many other conversations that will be dropped and shared, and our community is evolving so fast. It really is important to kind of just keep up with all the news so you can see how it applies to you and how you can help each other. So everyone have a great day, and we'll talk soon. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
Bye. Thanks, Jackie.